order, and let's have the Pledge of Allegiance. Please call the roll.
Alderman Srelchuk,
Here.
Alderman Bushy, Alderman Meyer,
Here.
Alderman Hancher,
Here.
Alderman Garrell, Alderman Parrish,
Here.
Alderman Schneider, here, Alderman Gebhardt,
Here.
Mayor Nervin.
Here. First up, we have personal appearances and public comment. So citizens wishing to address the council on any matter not on the agenda may do so at this time. If you desire to be heard on any agenda items, you may be heard at the time when they are considered. Please speak into the mic. Time limit is 5 minutes. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on any item not on the agenda? Seeing none, we will move to public officials reports. Oh, is there one? Is there one?
Wanted to make a comment on something in the first reading. So now or at that reading?
At that time. This is for anything not on the agenda. First up, we have public officials reports. I've only got one small item. Engineers and science-minded people everywhere like to celebrate Pi Day. Today is Pi Day because it is 3/14. So it was celebrated today at my office with pie that was for sale. I don't know if anyone here did anything similar. I know we have a city engineer in the crowd who probably celebrated Pi Day in her own quiet way. So happy Pi Day to all the engineers and science-minded folks out there. Mr. Administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the council, just two quick announcements. Early absentee voting for the April 4th spring election will start next Tuesday, March 21st, and run through March 31st during normal business hours here at City Hall. On April 4th, the day of the spring election, polls will be open from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. And then WISDOT will be hosting an open house meeting here at City Hall on Wednesday, March 29th, between the hours of 6 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. to gather input and feedback and share information on a 2.2-mile project to replace pavement on Wauwatosa Road. WISDOT's currently in the final design phase for this project, which is scheduled to be constructed in 2026. This will involve a portion of Wauwatosa Road between south of County Line Road, just south of Mequon's border, and traversing all the way north to Mequon Road. The project will also include replacement of the traffic signals at Donjas Bay Road and also include the installation of sidewalk sections to complete sidewalk on the western portion of Wauwatosa Road between Donjas Bay and Mequon Road. Again, that public information meeting will be Wednesday, March 29th from 6 to 7:30 here at City Hall. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have the consent agenda. We have 14 sets of boards and commission meeting minutes and one compliance report and two resolutions on the consent agenda. We'll get the ordinance first readings in a second.
Move approval on the consent agenda.
Motion in a second. Would anyone like to remove an item? If not, there's a motion. Alderman Boucher,
Item,
you can remove an item and talk about it separately.
so
approve
on
it
an
separately.
ordinance, I would like to, okay, so those are separate, thank you.
First readings? You want to? Yeah, we'll take up first readings next. Just items A through P on the consent agenda. So there's a motion. Did we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That brings us to ordinance first reading. So we'll read these one at a time. There is someone registered to speak on item 6Q6. So we'll pause and take that comment when it comes up. First up, we have ordinance 23-1640, an ordinance amending chapter 58 of the Mequon Municipal Code related to building and site plan requirements for properties located in the town center arrival corridor zoning districts. This was recommended by the Planning Commission February 27th and recommended earlier this evening by the Committee of the Whole, and it is a first reading. Ordinance 2023-1641, an ordinance amending Chapter 58 of the Mequon Municipal Code related to turf grass height limits during the month of May. This was recommended by Public Welfare on January 10th, recommended by the Planning Commission on February 27th, and was also recommended this evening. Well, we discussed it this evening at the Committee of the Whole earlier this evening, and it is a first reading. Next is Ordinance 2023-1642, an ordinance amending Chapter 58 of the Mequon Municipal Code regarding required setbacks and offsets for properties located within the city's R2 zoning district for 2-acre residential. This was recommended by the Planning Commission Public Welfare Committee on January 10th, Planning Commission on February 27th, and was discussed earlier this evening at Committee of the Whole and is a first reading. Next, we have Ordinance 2023-1643, an ordinance amending Chapter 10 of the Mequon Municipal Code, updating references to and requirements of applicable administrative code provisions within the building requirements or building permits. Recommendation was forthcoming from Public Welfare Committee tonight. We have a
Mayor,
recommendation.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and take up ordinance 2023-1643. Public Welfare took it up this evening and it passed 3-0.
Second.
And I make a motion to approve.
To make a motion to suspend the rules first. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call vote? Okay. Let's have a roll call vote on whether to suspend the rules or not.
Alderman Strelchak,
Yes.
Alderman Bushy, Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Garrow, Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Alderman Schneider,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt.
Aye.
Okay, the rules are suspended. And then is there,
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve 2023-1643. Public Welfare took that up and approved it this evening, 3-0.
Second.
so a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? And that ordinance is approved. On back to regular first readings at this point. Get back on task here on my laptop. Ordinance 2023-1644, an ordinance amending the planned unit development for Newcastle Place, known as Life Space, located at 12500 to 12700 North Port Washington Road, approving a new concept plan, extending the development timeline, modifying the open space requirements, and updating certain approval requirements. This was recommended by the Planning Commission on February 27th and is a first reading. And our next item here, 2023-1645, an ordinance amending Chapter 58 of the Mequon Municipal Code to rezone St. John's Evangelical Church located at 1600 to 1717 West Mequon Road from R4 single family 3/4 acre to B1 neighborhood business district and IPS institutional and public service with a planned unit development overlay, and amend the city's land use map from residential 1.5 acre to neighborhood business and institutional in connection with an establishment of a proposed commercial office space. This was recommended by the Planning Commission on January 23rd and is a first reading, and we do have someone registered to speak, so we'll take that comment now. Please come to the mic and introduce yourself and share your comments.
Evening, Council. Name's Joe Wolfley. I am a State Farm agent here in Mequon. Have been for about 12 and a half years, and the purchasing party of this potential property. I know it is a first reading, but I do have a family vacation with my wife, kids, and 3 of her sisters and their wives and or husbands and kids, and she would not let me change that. So I will not be at the following meeting, and just wanted to make sure I had an opportunity to introduce myself, kind of give you guys a little bit of a heads up of just what it is I'm trying to do. I've been in the Mequon square buildings across from Metro Market for about 12 years. I've been looking to purchase a property in Mequon to move my business to for the better part of 4 or 5 years. As my commercial real estate agent, who has been very patient with me, can attest to. And we are looking at this property here on Mequon Road to essentially leave relatively as is, in the sense of we're not taking down a building. We're not making major footprint adjustments to the building. We are literally the home itself that stands there will essentially be gutted to be able to meet the commercial requirements of an office space. So new roof, new exterior, new porch, a paved driveway, handicap ramp, all of the things that are going to be required to make that a usable office space for my State Farm office on the first floor. The second floor will not be used. And again, it's clean up the property, make the, get an arborist in there, clean up the trees, really just make it a nice looking piece of property that I can keep my office in. I'm about to be 42. State Farm agents don't retire. We die, and then they move us out. So I plan on being there for a very long period of time. And like I said, since I will not be here, but will have representation here at the next meeting, wanted to make sure I got to get in front of you guys. So I don't know if
Thank you.
I don't know if you have any questions, but happy to take them if that works on this or not. But
It's a little irregular with the first reading. Is that permissible, Mr. City Attorney?
There's nothing that prohibits it, so
Okay,
I think
so
you
it's
could.
okay.
ahead.
We're on good standing here. Okay, good. Alderman Boucher.
So I thank you for coming. Enjoy your vacation. I didn't have a question per se, but I wanted to comment, and again, based on your statements, hopefully this isn't a problem. But with the parcel being zone B1, there's an exclusion in there for restaurants and any potential future use. And I was hoping that there could be a consideration by the staff to also include banking in there because of the high use or high traffic that would be involved in that process, to include that as an exclusion.
well, is it specifically drive-through banking or banking? Because I am also bank certified, and we do banking through U.S. Bank.
Banking that would have tellers and people driving in and out.
I mean, I guess my concern is I am technically a outlet of U.S. Bank, and so if you're talking drive-through banking, like that's not necessarily of a concern of mine. But I am bank certified and do represent U.S. Bank in deposit products, and so I guess in that situation that I'd be looking for a distinction in drive-through space. And I get it. I'm not going to have tellers or anything. It's just that it's a piece of what we do.
I think that's good feedback. Why don't we commit to? I know the spirit of that comment is not to limit your activities, but
I guess
we don't end up with another
Right.
bank in that location. I think it's good to get that feedback early. I think Kim and Jack will noodle on that one and figure out how to say that the right way so we don't prohibit you from operating your business,
I would appreciate
but
that.
still achieve the
Right. Yep.
nature of the comment. Any other comments while we're discussing a first reading item? Better to get it out now than when you're not here next month and able to respond.
Correct.
Not seeing any more, so thank you, Alderman Boucher, for that. We'll work on it, and
Thank you.
I guess whatever we come up with, staff will be in communication with you to make sure we're all good.
Wonderful. Appreciate it.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Moving on, we have ordinance 2023-1646, ordinance amending chapter 58, section 58-640 of the Mequon Municipal Code, redefining the reimbursement options for sanitary sewer costs. This was recommended by the Planning Commission February 27th. Further recommendation forthcoming from the Sewer Utility District Commission on next month. This is incorrectly noted as this month, and is a first reading. Next item is ordinance 2023-1639, an ordinance amending chapter 50 and section 46-133 of the Mequon Municipal Code related to nuisances within the city, including noise. This was tabled by Public Welfare on January 10th, recommended by Public Welfare on February 14th, and is a first reading. Those are all the first readings. We have no regular ordinances this evening, which brings us to resolutions. Resolution 4024, resolution clearing the personal property tax roll of delinquent accounts deemed uncollectible for tax roll year 2021. This was recommended earlier this evening with some regret by the Finance and Personnel Committee.
Move
Is
to
there a
approve.
motion?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all is in favor. Well, we should call roll. It's sort of financial. So please indicate aye or nay when your name is called.
Alderman Bushy. Alderman Meyer.
Aye.
Alderman Hancher.
Aye.
Alderman Garrow. Alderman Parrish.
Aye.
Alderman Schneider.
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt.
Aye.
Alderman Strelchuk.
Aye.
And that resolution is approved. Resolution 4025, resolution approving a 3-year professional services agreement for commercial plan review and consultation services with E-Plan Exam of Brookfield, Wisconsin. This was recommended earlier this evening by the Finance and Personnel Committee.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions about this item? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 And that motion is approved. Resolution 4034, resolution approving amendments to the City of Mequon fee schedule for the fiscal year 2023 related to State of Wisconsin commercial plan review fees. This was also recommended earlier this evening by Finance and Personnel and is a companion resolution to the one we just talked about.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Hearing none. If you're in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? That resolution passes. Resolution 4026, a resolution approving a state municipal agreement for the state-let highway project with the Wisconsin Department of Transportation for sidewalk installation on Mequon Road west of Wauwatosa Road to Swan Road and or for sidewalk replacement from Wauwatosa Road east to Buntrock Avenue. Recommendation forthcoming from Public Works.
Before we have a motion, Director Lundin is going to explain some technicalities, right?
All right.
Thank
Take it away.
you. At the Public Works Committee meeting tonight, I requested that the state municipal maintenance agreement be tabled. There's an amount of elements in there that are not related to the sidewalk that obligate the city to maintenance requirements beyond what they currently are. I was trying to work with WISDOT to get an amended document to present tonight and was unable to do so. It will not impact the ability for the sidewalk to be able to move forward as you otherwise determine tonight. We'll just otherwise bring that maintenance agreement back at a future meeting for a request for approval.
Okay, with that item aside, was there a recommendation on the rest of the item?
Yeah, it was recommended to approve.
So might
I
I
make a
clarify,
motion to approve.
To approve what? There were many components to the sidewalk project.
The approval included all of them. So the approval was for the, aside from removing the maintenance agreement, was for approval as written.
Okay, so all phases of the sidewalks. Are there any other questions from the rest of the aldermen? Can we bring up a map of the sidewalk project? So I think there's two major components. There's the new sidewalk to the west of Wauwatosa Road, which we've spoken about before and had some input on the design for. I'm guessing there's universal support for that. What I'd like to talk about is the replacement of the rest of the sidewalks to the east of Wauwatosa Road on the north and south side. That item totals more than $500,000, which we would be on the hook for. Did the committee consider that when supporting it? The sidewalk's in rather decent condition. It's not new. It's quite old, but I drove past it twice today and it's in okay shape. My question is, do we want to spend $500,000 on that now, or is it good enough to let it ride for a while?
Mayor, is this the topic we talked about a month ago or two when we were debating if it was needed on both sides, and the common council generally said they thought that was the case, that it was needed.
No, that was the new sidewalk to the west, and we decided it was only needed, truly needed on the north, and that's what's reflected in these plans. No,
No.
that's in the packet. That's the one that it's 100,000 and some change. I don't have the rough numbers. Do we have it up on the screen?
Yeah, and if I may, the green is the sidewalk just on the north side between Swan and Wauwatosa Road that was otherwise generally agreed to at a previous committee of the whole meeting. There is a recital in the ordinance that would otherwise authorize the state municipal financial agreement for that portion. There is an additional recital that deals with, and I'm sorry, the color doesn't translate very well, but the orange or maybe brown as it appears on the screen, that the city staff requested pricing for the replacement of. That's what we would otherwise consider the primary replacement, or the sidewalk that's in the worst condition. And then we also requested pricing for the blue, which is what we otherwise called the secondary sidewalk replacement for the areas that were slightly improved over the remaining sections, so that this body could otherwise decide whether they want, as a part of the WISTOP project, for that sidewalk to be replaced, or, as the mayor notes, for the city to do so at a future time, noting in both cases the city is responsible for 100% of that sidewalk replacement cost.
Yeah, I misspoke. The sidewalk to the west, the new sidewalk, which we spoke about a month or two ago, is about $180,000. The two sections to the east, their replacement of existing sidewalks, the two sections in total are about 400,000, not $500,000. Still a good chunk of change, though. And if it's the desire of the council to do it, we can do it. I just wanted to point that out. I don't get to vote unless there's a tie. Alderman Stralchuk.
So why are we looking at a total replacement if there's even a question that a portion of it would be in reasonably decent condition?
I think it depends on your definition of reasonably decent. So the sections are in need of both slab replacement, sidewalk shaving, and other amendments, which can be done to help the sidewalk prolong. Staff just wanted to ensure that we're pointing out that the city is ultimately obligated to 100% of that cost, no matter when the sidewalk is replaced. So we were trying to take advantage of some efficiencies with the project of having the equipment on site to otherwise replace the sidewalk. But if the decision is not to do so now, we'll continue to monitor it and address it through either sidewalk shaving or mud jacking until such time that it requires replacement. Then we'll have to go through the bidding process to otherwise do so and bring that back before this body for approval.
So I get my vehicles maintained at Summers, and I've walked down to town center to and from, kind of both sides. The sidewalk's definitely passable. I mean, I didn't take a mental note when I was, tired walking for coffee, as if I was going to be voting on it. But, at no point did I notice anything that looked unsafe, because I've highlighted other things in the city that have looked unsafe to, both the development and the engineering staff in the past. So my vote would be to maintain the sidewalk. If there's anything that's heaved and unsafe, or it's a tripping hazard, or would be hazardous to kids passing to and from, that we address that, right away. But a full replacement, I feel is reasonable to wait on.
Mr. City Attorney.
Just, I guess, for a point of order, we have a motion but no seconds, so discussion is probably a little bit premature until we have that.
Mostly good. Well, you want to say it again? Now it's official.
You just don't typically do it while there is a motion on the floor. Typically, you either let that motion fail because there's no second, or you get a second and then you have discussion, or you have discussion before the motion. But to do it between is a little bit unusual.
There's no time limit on a motion. Unless we adjourn. Alderman Hancher.
Well, what do you think the timeline, the lifetime of that, the current sidewalk? How many more years could you use it until you have to fully replace it? Because if it's 5 years, it's different than it's 20 years, and maintenance costs too. So
It is closer to 5 than it is to 20. I mean, it's at the 30-year life already, which is typically it for sidewalk. And unfortunately, the thing we see the most that will have to be addressed is the ADA compliance for shift is 1/4 of an inch. Anything more than that, and we're at risk for not meeting ADA. So we do have significant equipment issues when we otherwise plow the sidewalk through there. Not surprisingly, when you have a plow go across the edge, it catches every single lip as it otherwise goes through. Again, a lot of those can be addressed with sidewalk shaving, but as you might otherwise understand, that starts to reduce that concrete section as it otherwise continues to lift and will get to the point that it needs to be replaced. We can otherwise decide to replace it section by section. It won't otherwise impact the overall fiscal impact to that, except that things 5 years from now or 20 years from now are going to be more expensive than they are to do right now.
I would be more inclined to have it replaced now than wait for it.
Any further comments or questions? Or we have a motion and a second.
So can I just ask, it wouldn't cost, it's just a matter of staff time to rebid it then, in terms of we're looking at additional costs if we don't approve this evening, and if we, say 3 years down the road, have to go back and rebid this project, is the only difference would be the potential of inflation and the potential of a little more staff time, correct, to just put a proposal and bid?
Yes, I would only clarify that beyond inflation, concrete prices in particular have significantly increased due to a shortage. So that we are, supply chain issues will determine whether that continues to be the case and whether those material costs are more. But yes, the staff time to otherwise bid it is not required as a part of the WISTOP project and would otherwise be if we do it outside of that contract.
Alderman Giro.
If concrete, there's a shortage now, it's probably good to just wait until there's not a shortage and then get it at a better price. And I think I've never walked over there. I've never been over there. So I'll have to take, and I trust that Alderman Strelchek made it all the way through there without injury. And it doesn't look like it needs to be replaced right now. So I would just wait, and when concrete gets cheaper and we have more money and we need to do it, then we should do it.
So perhaps the best way to get through this is to split the question. Vote on the two separately. There's a motion on the floor to approve everything. Would the motioner and seconder be amenable to splitting the question?
Can I make an amendment to the motion, my own motion?
Sure.
To eliminate Exhibit B, send it back to city staff just to give us a cost on what future maintenance costs may be for the next 5 years and an estimate on that. And then bring forward Exhibit A by itself. Five to 10 is fine. Sure, I'll change that to 5 to 10.
Director Lundin has a comment, I think.
Well, unfortunately, when it comes to maintenance, we do reverse math because that doesn't come from the right-of-way asset management. That comes from contracted services. So we just authorize the contract and tell them to go until we've run out of money. And then we just mark that location, and then we have them start at that location the next year and go until we run out of money. So I'm not sure I can give you an accurate measurement of what the 5-year maintenance requirements are.
Maybe the question is, looking back 5 years, what have our costs been in that corridor recently?
We haven't gotten to the majority of this corridor. We started at the other end.
Or, well, okay.
Hey, you gotta have some kind of idea how that degrades over a period of time and what.
Well,
I'm not looking for exact numbers.
I think the challenge is the book would tell you it's already at the end of its useful life, but it's not. It's not there. It might never be there.
It's
in
like
the next 10
subdivision
years.
roads that you don't replace at the end of the lifespan inside of it.
And due to 2-point authentication, I can't get to what the budget is. But I guess what I'm telling you is we use all of the budget every year on sidewalk. We just go until we have used it, and then we start at that point the next year, and then we turn around and come back.
Alderman Strelchuk.
So I don't think it's unreasonable to try to understand what the costs are to maintain it and how long it's going to last. I mean, that's just a general question. We're not experts at sidewalk maintenance and engineering, but if we do the concrete shaving, what is that going to pull from the budget? What are they going to charge you to bring that equipment out? And in your professional opinion, you're unbelievably intelligent. How long do you feel that should last based on that? And that's what I'm looking for information to make the decision on whether to maintain it now or later.
We're the ones that asked for WISTOT to include it. So we're otherwise suggesting that it would be included as a part of this project. So if it's not, then we will otherwise utilize the funding that we otherwise have for sidewalk shaving that's already established annually by budget.
This is getting over. How do we get a number?
Either way. We're on the hook to maintain this either way. We either replace it all or we maintain it for a little while longer. I guess my question for the 8 of you is, with everything we need to do in the next 5 years, is the $400,000 to do this more important than the other things?
Well, the reason why I brought that up was that, if next month when it came, we could bring it back next month and then approve Exhibit B if the costs were not comparative, but the costs were, you take a look and you go, here, it's going to cost us 150 grand in the next 5 years to do it anyways, just for update and for upkeep inside of it. Might as well go ahead and approve this, but I'm not looking for either a yay or nay on a thing, but to get some more information.
When does the state need their feedback?
Now. They actually wanted it by the end of last month, but it didn't match up with our packet deadlines. So
I suggest we split the question and make a
I'll
decision
withdraw my
one way or the
motion.
other.
My amendment to the motion.
Me too.
I think we can either vote on the motion on the floor as is and see where it goes, or we can agree, the two that made the motion can agree to split the question and we can move forward.
Or I can remove my second. Then you've got a motion and no second, and we can take it up as we can make a separate motion to do it the other way. However
We
you
can
want
make
to
a whole
handle it.
motion, a whole new motion.
But you could just do a motion to split the question, and
Make a new
you'd have to define what exactly that means. If it's A and B or some other split, but you could split it.
I think we need a motion on splitting the exhibits A and B in its most simplest form.
I don't think it's exhibits A and B. I think it's recitals B and then C and D.
Well, we could just do if there was a second on the first motion, so you could take that up, and if it fails, you could split the question. Take it up again.
I'll remove my motion from the first.
Well, now we need a new motion.
You're really overcomplicating what is a simple thing. If you want to split the question, just somebody make a motion to split the question.
Okay, I move to split the question.
Second.
Thank you. We've got a motion and a second, and a third, and a fourth. So what's the proper way to? This is.
Recital B
Recital
is
B.
just the new sidewalk. Recital C is the primary replacement, and recital D is the secondary. So if you group them, it would be recital B is for the new sidewalk, and the combination of C and D are for the replacement.
So that we'll take up recital B first.
Let's just clarify. That's just to have the new sidewalks, not to
Yeah,
replace.
sorry, I'm trying to pull it up, but yes.
There was a motion in a second.
Yeah,
that
Kristen,
is
new
the-
sidewalks and then which location, please?
I think
So then we're gonna go into
the clerk is asking me a technical question here. So do we need to vote on splitting the question? Okay, so
Yes.
we're going to vote on splitting the question, and then we'll vote on the two questions. Okay, let's do a roll call vote on splitting the question.
Alderman Meyer,
No.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Garrow, Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Alderman Schneider,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
Alderman Strelchuk, Alderman Bushy. 7-1.
Okay, so the question is split. First part of that question is whether to vote for recital B, which is the new sidewalk. So let's do another roll call vote on that. Well, wait a minute, we need a motion. Correct. Recital B is the new sidewalk. Do we still need a motion?
No, you have the motion already.
Okay.
We're just splitting it or B and the others.
Roll call vote on just recital B, the new sidewalk.
Alderman Hancher,
No.
Alderman Garrow, Alderman Parrish,
No.
Alderman Schneider,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
No.
Alderman Strelchuk,
Yeah.
Alderman Bushy, Alderman Meyer. 3 ayes and 5 no.
Nope.
So you just voted against installing the new sidewalk between Wauwatosa Road and Swan Road.
Is there a motion to reconsider? I did not expect that out. I
Yeah.
did not expect that outcome.
Okay. I think we got confused. All right.
The
Motion
new
to- a
sidewalk.
motion to
Yes,
reconsider.
okay. Motion in a second. All those in favor of reconsideration? Is that a roll call vote? No. Okay. All those in favor of reconsidering, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Let's try this again. We're voting for recital B, which is the new sidewalk to the west of Wauwatosa Road, otherwise known as Exhibit A, in the amount of $179,000 or $179,600.
Yes. So just so we are clear, because I heard a comment that makes me worried. The vote here is whether or not you want to approve installing the new sidewalk on the far west end of the project. The green color that was on the screen before.
Yes, I can.
Okay. Let's try the roll call vote again.
Alderman Garrow, Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Alderman Schneider,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
Alderman Strelchuk, Alderman Bushy, Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
Alderman Hancher.
Aye.
Okay, that sidewalk's approved. Now we're going to vote on the combination of recitals C and D, which is for replacement of the existing sidewalk east of Wauwatosa Road. Now let's do another roll call vote.
Alderman Parrish,
No.
Alderman Schneider,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
No.
Alderman Strelchuk, Alderman Bushy, Alderman Meyer,
No.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Garrow. 2 ayes and 5 no. For 6 no.
Okay. I think that concludes item resolution 4026.
Can I just ensure that included the tabling of the maintenance agreement?
I think we started that off sufficiently clear.
Yeah. Yes, that was part of the recommendation from
Thank
the
you.
committee. So
Yes.
Good to check though, because we definitely don't want that.
Correct.
Resolution 4027, a resolution approving amendments to the City of Mequon fee schedule for fiscal year 2023 related to athletic field fees, pool fees, and sewer utility user charges. This was their recommendation earlier this evening for Public Works. Thank you. Any further questions on this item? Alderman Strelchak.
Um, I had somebody reach out to me today with concern for the schedule for the pricing for the athletic fields and what that would do to some of the local sports. It was a little confusing to me when I talked to Mike Geese earlier today, in that the overall cost with the increase in usage should come down for some of these different groups, but one of the groups that was most concerned was I had a representative from Timber reach out to me, and based on just the fee schedule alone with their current rental rate, that would take up their cost to operate Timber significantly. Mike Geese did share that if they reserved times when they weren't using it, if there was an hour and a half slot where they weren't using the fields, they can now rent the fields out to somebody else, and in the long run, those costs should come down. But I do want to take into consideration, at some level, we want the rentals from the fields to be there to help support the maintenance of the parks, help support the upkeep and the additional work that's needed to be done on the athletic fields. But we also want to continue to support family and youth athletics within our community and not overburden those local groups within our community to come up with hefty fees and raise costs for people to basically use the parks that they paid taxes to build and maintain otherwise. So just a point of discussion, and looking for just a little clarity as to, in specific, Timba and some of the other groups, what may happen to their costs moving forward.
Anytime's a perfect time to
Okay.
jump in. Correct, Lundeen.
The methodology for the fee amendment is taking the contract cost for SMB landscaping, which is a pass-through, and dividing it by the number of uses at the field. So it's fiscally neutral for the city. The city does not need this field maintenance contract. If the user groups don't want it, we won't do it, and we'll otherwise return to just the city of Mequon fees. The user groups asked us to otherwise include these, and the first year it was done through an MOU, but that was an inequitable distribution because that only went to the groups that otherwise entered into the MOU, and the other users got all the advantages of the field maintenance contracts and none of the cost. So at the request of the user groups, we otherwise modified last year this methodology of taking that contract fee and dividing it by the number of uses at the field. What we do for the user groups then is when they come through with their rental agreement and identify their number of uses, that's what their initial fee is, because that's what's used to pay SMB's contract throughout the season. At the end of the season, then we reconcile those fees based on the actual number of uses. So there will be groups that may come out and in the end owe less because there are other users that used it. But we're just trying to ensure that the cost of the contract itself is otherwise covered, because again, that was at the request of the user groups, and this was presented to all of the user groups in the meetings. So I'm not sure who spoke to you, but Timba was at the meetings with Mike to otherwise review what the proposed methodology was.
Yeah, it's an interesting comment because they weren't happy with the way we were maintaining the field, so we got
What was the
someone
variance?
else to do the maintenance, and then we're just passing the cost along by breaking it up on a per rental basis. So the people that asked for it now don't want to pay
I
for
guess
it. I think it's an anomalous comment.
Can I interrupt for just a minute?
Well, sure.
This is 4027. I think that what we were talking to was 4030. I think we're confusing two different resolutions here.
Nope.
Am I right with that?
Nope. This is they're related. This is the fee schedule that eventually supports that contract, so they're related. But this is just a recoupment of the cost of administering that contract for the field maintenance.
Yep. So I guess my question is, what what weren't we doing to their level? Were we mowing every other week and they wanted us to mow
This
every
is
week?
everything. They used to contract directly on their own with SMB outside of the city.
You're
we-
using a company name and not a service. I'm trying to understand the service.
Field maintenance,
Describe what happens in field maintenance that SMB
the
is
raking,
contracted
the
to do.
lining, the mound creation and maintenance, and all the distribution of material, all of the maintenance of the field itself. The mowing we do, but that's what was otherwise included in this. Prior to 2021, they all contracted directly with this. They all hired their own field maintenance crews to come in, and then they would block off the public parks and prohibit anyone else from using the fields. So as we otherwise went through how we were going to administer their use of the field and their request for enhanced field maintenance, we went through a 1-year pilot program where we otherwise contracted with the field maintenance staff and then had an MOU to charge that through. But as previously noted, that meant that other users outside of the MOU got all of the benefits of the field maintenance contract without any of the cost. And the user groups indicated that that was not equitable. Timba, among other groups, have actually seen a cost savings over the year because what they paid out of pocket was approximately $5,000 to $7,000 more than the fees that they otherwise paid to incorporate it through the city.
And with the fee increase, would they be back up to where they were, or would they still be realizing some potential
Unfortunately, I can't speak to that. All I know is the number of uses on the field altogether. I don't know what Timba's are individually.
Okay.
And again, if the user groups don't want it, then you can deny the SMB contract and we'll go back to just the city of Mequon fees. But then it's absent the field maintenance that they otherwise requested of us.
And then how often do they come out? Is it a weekly or a monthly thing?
Daily.
Daily?
Most often in season daily.
Well, and that I would be more inclined to say if it was a beginning of the season and a once during the season maintenance that we were paying for, just to fund that through the city, just to support youth sports in the community. But if they're out there daily for a specific group, I see the pass through being reasonable. So thank you for your explanation on
Sure.
that.
And obviously I should clarify that varies. You know, the lining of the fields is one thing, but like the mound reconstruction is obviously less often. So there is varying degrees, but he's most likely on site every day between all of the fields.
So he's not on site in each field daily. He's on site at one of the fields daily.
At some of them, he is daily in season.
Okay.
It depends on the use. We're not sending him out if the field hasn't otherwise been used. So it kind of depends on the rental of the individual field.
Yeah, and I'm not picking apart what you're saying. I know that I'll have questions after,
Sure.
and I want to make sure I have a clear understanding. So thank you.
And with that, again, Mike meets with all of them in the winter ahead of this so that we can all discuss what it is that they want. That's why you perhaps note one of the largest increases is at Lemke because last year the user group opted out. So the only fee that was charged last year was the city's fee, but then there was no field management contract. And throughout the season, they ended up regretting the decision and so asked to opt back in this year. So we can do that any given year on any given basis. If there's user groups that don't otherwise want the contract, we've already done that. We've gone back and forth where we listen and take it out when the user groups don't want it, but include it where either it's more cost effective for them to do so or where they're looking to have that enhanced service.
And then my final question is for how do we come up with a fee schedule? I mean, I agree with the pass through on this. I mean, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and having that pass through the different organizations is reasonable. But at some point, how do we support Mequon community-based athletics or groups or things like that, and not be discriminatory against somebody from Cedarburg that wants to rent the field that's doing in Ozaukee County, something like? How do we support Mequon local youth sports in the community? Is there anything we can do to offer a discount structure or something like that for Mequon-based 501c3s or equivalent?
At this point, because we've just done the equitable adjustment, the Mequon Thiensville groups are the only ones that really can benefit, because when we do the reconciliation at the end, the those that don't have the user group agreements, like a Cedarburg team or whatever that comes in for more use, they just pay the flat rate. They're not a part of the reconciliation at the end of the season. So those Mequon Thiensville teams right now are the only ones that benefit. Because it's a pass through, it would be a little bit difficult for us to structure. That said, if there's enough willingness to keep with this structure so that we have years worth of calculations of the number of uses, then I think that we could get there. We just have, this will be only our second year under this structure to otherwise try and determine kind of the number of uses outside of those Mequon Thiensville groups to get to that number. But we can continue to grow the data to get there at some point, assuming, of course, they want to continue to work in this benefit. We are structured a little bit different because we are unique that we don't have a rec department. And so our parks is just parks, not parks and rec. So the revenue streams and how they're otherwise balanced are certainly different for us. But there are a lot of these club groups that otherwise operate on their own fields, that purchase their own land and build their own fields, and then they're responsible for their own fees. And these groups at least don't have that here. We're at least providing the land and the fields. They're just paying to maintain them.
Thank you for your description. Appreciate it.
Any other questions on the fee schedule? Alderman Bushy.
Sorry, I'll try to make this quick and hopefully not long or debate here. I just want to thank Chairman Honcher and Public Works and Director Lundin for the pool fee schedule to include for seniors and nannies an adjusted rate. It's something that at least I know one resident who brought it to my attention, and I forwarded on, and it's something that just makes a lot of common sense. So thank you.
Thank you. I forgot. Did we have a motion? Okay. A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 And that resolution passes. Any opposed? Should have checked. Sorry. That resolution passes. On to Resolution 4028, resolution approving an award of the 2023 road improvement contract to Payne and Dolan of Jackson, Wisconsin, in the amount of $1,933,000, and authorizing execution of a memorandum of understanding with the Village of Thiensville for reimbursement. Recommendation forthcoming from Public Works.
Public Works approve of it 3-0. Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further comments? Alderman Parrish.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks to Public Works Committee. I have just a few comments. They generally relate to outstanding things I brought up before. I am in favor of the resolution, but this is my forum to represent my district as well. First of all, we had an end of the driveway replacement policy for concrete. Basically, whenever we replace the roads, we do asphalt, but if they have a concrete driveway, we're not reimbursing people up to essentially the concrete that we displace. So that was kind of a request, I think well over a year ago, for Public Works to consider, and I was reminded of it because it's part of the bid for.
Just to clarify, there was one person that otherwise had an issue with the ordinance that otherwise establishes that, yes, concrete placement in the right-of-way is at the own risk. We did restructure both how we manage the preliminary portion of the project as it relates to notifying residents, all residents, regardless of the material used on their driveway, and otherwise offering the residents the opportunity to leverage our contracts to otherwise have the concrete driveway replaced. And to date, this will be our second year, I think, of managing it that way, and we haven't had anyone request to take advantage.
Thank you. So it sounds like the process kind of corrected the issue. So
Yeah, we did appreciate the feedback that the timing on the information was misplaced in the past.
okay,
So we're
I'm
being
just
more
gonna keep.
proactive.
I'm gonna keep going if you don't mind. Part of this I'm saying because Alderman Boucher isn't going to be here much longer. But previously there's a sidewalk on the west side of Rangeline Road, which is now in Alderwoman Schneider's district, and it's in severe disrepair. It's across from the school district. I know you've been going on a multi-part process to see what the school district wants to do about this sidewalk. It is really a treacherous, ugly looking, like it's shameful. It's kind of the city of Mequon sidewalk. This has kind of been going on a couple of years now, and the mechanism to pay for it is the road repair program. So I'd really like to kind of move it along this upcoming year if that's possible. I don't want to.
Was incorporated into the master plan scope for the bikeway to analyze whether it's required. The school district in the end didn't provide anything to support it remaining in place, but before we suggested it be eliminated, we wanted the study to otherwise evaluate it before we made any further recommendations.
That's a good process as well. And then my final comment would be about the town square, the road condition in town square. I did not see that in this year's bidding package, and would just like to request that next year the committee looks at that. That's a prominent business park, and the roads are heavy cracks, and it's somewhat disrepair. So I'm not quite understanding how some of these roads are high on the list, and then I drive through a high value business park, and the roads aren't being addressed. So
I can tell you it's not at all based on property value. So it is based on the surface condition rating of the road. So I was just trying to pull up. I'm not sure what that road is.
It's just a request to look really hard at that for next year's road bidding program. I'm not trying to change this year's at all. Thank you.
I gotta turn my mic on. Alderman Boucher.
Since it was mentioned, I'll just follow up. I think that sidewalk that's on Range Line there, it's as appearing as a sidewalk, it's more of a safety hazard right now than it is a sidewalk, and something I think needs to be done sooner than later.
Any other feedback on the 2023 road program? Or did we have a motion? Yeah. We did? Okay. Starting to lose it. Thank you.
Need a vote.
Want to make sure we get everyone's feedback. Any further comments or questions on the road program? Hearing none, we have to do a roll call vote. That's a big chunk of money.
Alderman Schneider,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
Alderman Strelchuk, Alderman Bushy, Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Garrow, Alderman Parrish.
Aye.
And that resolution passes. On to Resolution 4029, resolution awarding the 2023 crack sealing contract to Farner Asphalt Sealers, Wanakee, Wisconsin, the amount of not to exceed of $292,000. There is also a recommendation forthcoming this evening from Public Works.
Public Works approved it at 3-0.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments on the cracks? Hearing none, please also call a roll call vote for this.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
Alderman Strelchuk, Alderman Bushy, Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Garrow, Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Alderman Schneider.
Aye.
And that resolution passes. Resolution 4030, resolution approving a contract for baseball field management services during the 2023 to 2026 seasons with SMB Landscape Contractors of Thiensville, Wisconsin, with an estimated annual cost of $42,135. So recommendation forthcoming from Public Works earlier this evening.
Public Works approved of it 3-0. Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. I think we got a pretty good overview of how this works during the comments on Resolution 4027. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Strelchuk, Alderman Bushy, Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Garrow, Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Alderman Schneider,
Aye.
and Alderman Gebhardt.
Aye.
And that passes. On to Resolution 4031, resolution approving a contract award to construct a parallel force main for Tamerlane Drive, Lift Station O to Mid-City Corporation of Butler, Wisconsin, in the amount of $738,265. This was recommended earlier this evening by the Sewer Utility District Commission.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments or questions? We discussed it earlier, so maybe there aren't any. Hearing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Bushy, Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Garrow, Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Alderman Schneider,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
Alderman Strelchuk.
And on to 40, that passes. On to 4032, resolution approving award to contract to test and seal 218 sanitary sewer laterals in the Ranch Road Lift Station E area to Visu Sewer Incorporated of Pewaukee, Wisconsin, the amount of $687,632. This was also recommended earlier this evening by the Sewer Utility District Commission.
I'd move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Meyer,
Aye.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Garrow, Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Alderman Schneider,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
Alderman Strelchuk, Alderman Bushy.
And that item passes. Our last resolution, 4033, resolution approving the contract design for replacement of Ranch Road Lift Station E to Applied Technologies of Brookfield, Wisconsin, in the amount of $514,205. This was also recommended earlier this evening by the Sewer Utility District Commission.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Alderman Garrow, Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Alderman Schneider,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
Alderman Strelchuk, Alderman Bushy, Alderman Meyer.
Aye.
And that passes. We have no specified unfinished business. We have no specified new business. We have one potential closed session item. The Nofke roofing claim, the Common Council may convene into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.85 Prin 1 Prin G for the purposes of conferring with legal counsel for governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or likely to become involved, and then may reconvene in the open session to take such action as deemed appropriate. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
Move to go in closed session.
Second.
Motion and a second. Please call the roll to see if we'll go into closed session.
Alderman Garrow, Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Alderman Schneider,
Aye.
Alderman Gebhardt,
Aye.
Alderman Strelchuk, Alderman Bushy, Alderman Meyer, Alderman Hancher,
Aye.
Mayor Nurbit.
Aye. We are now going into closed session. I'm not anticipating we will return. So good night, everyone. We'll move to adjourn in closed session. Yeah.